Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. In today's video, I want to talk about picking plates and bumper plates in this video because it was much requested from the last picking plates video we did, but you may be regretting that choice because I'm going to start off by saying I don't think many people out there actually need to buy bumper plates, and I would actually recommend you don't buy them. Now, I'm going to tell you why and explain from firsthand experience, but I don't think they're necessary. But if you don't care about my opinion and just want to hear about what I think about the bumper plates in general and which ones you should buy if you're dead set on getting them, I'll put a comment that's stamped below that skips ahead all this dribble and gets right to the point. But that being said, again, I've owned bumper plates for quite a while and I learned a lot of things and wish I knew some of these things going into it because I probably wouldn't buy it. Number one, far and away, the biggest reason I don't suggest them is most people who are interested in buying them, again, most people just don't lift that way that train at home. Now, there are some out there that do, in which case you're in the minority for the people that watch these videos. But for the most part, most people are squatting, benching, deadlifting, rowing, that kind of thing, where the barbell never hits the floor in an uncontrolled fashion. It's always in some sort of controlled manner. Or if not, it might be on something where you drop a deadlift, but it's from a very small range of motion where the impact isn't going to be that significant as if it were doing overhead, for example. So far and away, most people don't lift in a way that warrants bumper plates. And I know what you're probably thinking, you know what? I don't lift that way, but I want to get bumper plates because I want to protect the foundation of my basement or the slab in my garage. And I kind of thought that was the case too, but after having trained several years on both bumpers and with steel plates at home, I found obviously no difference in what it did to the flooring itself. And because you have to remember that if you're doing things like deadlifting, and even if you're deadlifting 600, 700 pounds, or even less than that, chances are you have a deadlift platform at home that's going to absorb all of that shock anyways. And again, the range of motion isn't something where you're dropping it in an uncontrolled manner. So even after years of deadlifting with steel plates in my home gym, I didn't notice any difference to the damage, which was non-existent. And it was the same that I saw with my bumper plates. So again, no difference in damage because there was none either way if you take the right precautions necessary. The next thing people were going to say is, yeah, you know what, it might not damage the floor, but I want bumpers because it's going to be less loud than some steel plates. And I agree, it will be less loud, especially if you're dropping it from overhead, but most people wouldn't be dropping steel plates from overhead where the weights are going to start moving around and clanging and banging between each other or hitting a very hard surface from far away. Again, most lifting that people do that watch this channel are powerlifting or controlled drops where you're not going to have that heavy impact. And I will tell you that if you're dropping a lot of weight, regardless of it's 600 pounds in bumpers or 600 pounds in steel plates and you're deadlifting, depending on how much you control the weight, it's still going to make a lot of noise. 600 pounds is 600 pounds. And if you're an asshole and drop it, then it's still going to make a lot of noise even if you're using bumper plates. So the loudness factor doesn't really make much play because you can quietly put down bumpers just as well as you can quietly put down steel plates. So that's one thing to take in consideration that a lot of people think bumpers are just going to solve the issue of. Bumpers can still be loud. Another big issue is the fact that they take up a lot of real estate on the barbell. So depending on which kind of bumpers you get into, which I'll talk about in just a minute, they can take up a lot of real estate on the bar where you might only be able to fit 4 45s per side on a barbell, meaning that you can only really max out your training lifts around 400 pounds or so. And a lot of people that are interested in strength want to lift a lot more than that. So if you're lifting 600 or 700 pounds or whatever you're lifting, which I'm very jealous of, chances are if you have all bumpers, you're not going to be able to fit enough on the barbell in order to actually use them. That being said, again, for most lifts that require bumpers, which are Olympic style weightlifting, you're not going to be using hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So if you're dead set on getting bumpers, one of my suggestions would be make sure that you're just getting a set in order to do those Olympic lifts that you're worried about, and then spend your money better on some steel plates that's going to allow you to do your powerlifting or strength style movements. Because again, what's the point of investing 700 pounds worth of bumpers if you can only clean and jerk 135 pounds, right? It doesn't really make too much sense in that regard. Speaking of that, bumpers are also usually twice as expensive as steel plates, so it can really start to get expensive and, kind of hit your wallet really hard, which could be used in better circumstances to buy other equipment. So again, for the most part, bumpers just don't make sense for a lot of people in my opinion. However, if you're dead set on bumpers, number one, what I will say is, if you're going to be building a gym all as a package, so you're wanting to get plates, a barbell, and a rack, Where you get your bumpers should also probably be into consideration from where you get your rack and other equipment, because you want to be able to consolidate shipping as much as possible, especially if you're talking about several hundreds of pounds of weights. You don't want to have two different shipping bills come in at that, as that's going to cost you several $100s extra. So that being said, there's a lot of bumpers out there, there's a lot of different kinds. I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience. For this video, I'm going to focus on just a couple of companies. Those are going to be Rep Fitness, Rogue Fitness, Titan Fitness, and Fringe Sport. Those seem to be the most popular brands out there. When it comes to bumpers, there are a couple of kinds that I really look at. And again, these are just my own terminology, so work with me here a little bit. Number one, you have the high temp bumpers, which are actually just crumb bumpers, so the kind that are made from like little bits of rubber and recycled tire. I call them high temp because those are the most popular brands. High temp is actually a company that's based out in, I think, Alabama, that makes them. But it's kind of like if you ever get a tissue and you call it a Kleenex, even though it's not a Kleenex. They just have owned that market of those crumb bumpers for so long. I just associate all crumb bumpers as being high temp, but that's not really fair. So just want to kind of clear that air a little bit. But that's one type of bumpers. You also have some what I would call regular bumpers, which are the ones you see most often. They're typically like a glossy looking black style bumper, usually all black, but sometimes you can get some contrast in either the colors being adapted to whatever weight they are, or sometimes you'll just have a strip, or just the lettering might be a contrasted color. Those are what I would consider regular bumpers. They have a small steel insert right in the middle hub, kind of like some of the high temp bumpers will as well. You then also have either training or competition style bumpers, which are the ones with the larger steel inserts, which are the ones that I had. And these ones are usually almost always color coded to the weights they're used, because again, they're competition style. So the 20 or 45 pound ones are blue. The 55 or 25 kilo pound plates are red. 25 kilo pound, I'm getting stuff mixed up, but you get the point here. They're color coded specifically because again, they're used in competition. You'll also now have urethane bumpers, which are starting to get very popular, but I'm not going to talk too much about those. I don't think they offer that much benefit over a competition or training style bumper, yet they're heaps more expensive, which is obviously something that I don't think is worth it, especially because bumpers in general I don't think are worth it for most people. But also they're extremely slick and slippery, which sounds like a dumb thing to call out, but if you've ever tried to pick up a 45 or 55 pound urethane bumper that's laying face down on the floor, it's very difficult, and you know my pain with those fingertips and trying to get under them, because a lot of them are cut precisely where there's no rounded edges, and it's just almost impossible to pick one up. So I'm not going to talk about urethane ones in this case, but again, most bumpers these days, a lot of them are outsourced, which means no matter which company you're looking at, they all are pretty much equal. So what you want to look at are a couple of key things. Number one, for me, would be look at how wide they are. Again, most bumpers tend to be wider. In some cases, like the high temp ones, you'll find the 45 pound plates are almost 4 inches wide, which again really limits to how much weight you can put on it. As you start getting into what I would consider the regular bumpers, they start getting thinner. When you start getting to the competition style, they're even thinner past that. So again, I would look for ones with a thin profile if you can, especially if you're interested in lifting a lot of weight, because in that way you're going to be able to fit as much weight as possible on there. So far and away, I would look at the width first. You should also look at the price. Obviously, price is something that's important. I wouldn't want to spend a ton of money on bumpers necessarily, so I would shop around the different companies after I decide on kind of which width I want to get to. Look at the pricing and see which price makes the most sense. For my quick math, most of them are going to average somewhere between $2 to $4 once you factor in shipping. So definitely pay attention to that when you're looking at companies out there, as you might find one that you think is a very low price per pound, but when you factor in shipping, it might be more expensive than some of the other brands that are out there that actually include free shipping. So that's an example to take a look at as well. And I'll try to throw a chart in at some point in this video just to kind of break down some of the offerings from some of those bigger brands that I had mentioned already. Another thing you can pay attention to is the Durometer Rating, so how hard it is. You also get bounce rating off of Durometer. To be honest, again, because I don't think many people actually lift in a way that warrants bumpers, I don't think this matters for most of us that train for bench, squat, and deadlift. Again, if you're doing some Olympic lifting, it may come into play, but for the most part, most of these bumpers these days are pretty standard, anywhere between 85 up to around 94. So I don't think you'll find that much difference, unless, of course, you're doing tons and tons of high rep work, then you might get a little sick of doing it. I will also say something that comes into play is if you're training outside on no type of platform, so if you're doing things in the street, on concrete, maybe the crumb bumpers make more sense there, but otherwise they're more expensive because they're actually made in America, whereas most other bumpers are outsourced. They're also a lot wider, so unless you're training outside specifically, I probably would stay away from those. Now, talking about some of the competition style bumpers and bumpers in general, what you'll find for a lot of these plates are they're pretty accurate in terms of their weight tolerance, meaning whatever weight is stated on there, almost all of them, regardless if you go with a high temp, if you go with a what I would call a regular bumper or a competition style bumper or a urethane bumper, are within 1% of the given stated weight. So they're very accurate as is. As you get to the competition and training style plates, you'll find that those are within 10 to 15 grams, so extremely accurate. So again, it's nice in that regard, but the downsides, as I've already mentioned, I'm trying to hammer home these points. They're more expensive. They also take up a lot of weight on the bar. One of the things you might want to consider too, if you're going for the training or competition style bumpers, is even though they have those nice steel inserts in the middle, oftentimes they're also connected via hubs and bolts. So if you're doing a lot of rep work and a lot of pounding and dropping of those weights, those things can come loose over time. So it might make more sense to take a look at the regular style bumpers as well, because they just have those slimmer steel inserts and again are going to save you some money in the long run and are still going to be pretty accurate. But again, it depends on what you want, the colors, the aesthetics, the pricing, and the width and thickness. So if I was taking a look at bumpers, which again, I don't suggest that you do, and I was taking a look at these different brands, what I would suggest is my number one choice, and it pains me to say this because I know I get blasted with a lot of Rogue fanboyism, is the Rogue Echo bumpers. I think are the best value for the money. I think they're around $1.33 per pound. However, when you factor in shipping, it tends to be about $2 a pound, but they're fairly thin in terms of the other bumpers that they're competing against from the other brands for just their regular brand bumpers. They're accurate. And again, chances are if you're buying a bunch of stuff for a home gym, Rogue is a great option because they have great bars and obviously racks, as you can see behind me. I think that would be my choice if you're looking at just regular bumpers. Now, if you're looking at training or competition style bumpers, I would actually probably go Titan Fitness in this case because they have the cheapest offering up there of all the brands. I think they're like $2.10 or so per pound, and they have free shipping, which is nice. They also are color coded to match, obviously. They're going to be thinner because they're the competition brand style. They're also going to be more accurate than, let's say, the regular bumpers from the Echo brand of Rogue that I mentioned already. Or if you don't really want Titan because some people are kind of iffy on them, I'd actually maybe suggest Fringe Sport in this case because not only are they very similar spec and in looks, but pricing wise, I think they're only a couple more cents per pound and they include free shipping as well. So if you're looking for the training or competition style, I would probably either go Titan if they're in stock or Fringe Sport if they're in stock again. Now, Rep Fitness does have some good offerings, I will say that, from both the regular to the training and competition style bumpers, but with them, their shipping rates are not as good as Rogue, so it usually makes sense to either go Rogue in some instances for the regular style bumpers or the competition style bumpers, Titan or Fringe Sport, because again, shipping is already included from those companies. So Rep kind of loses some points because of their shipping. But that being said, as I mentioned again already, Rep has some great offerings in terms of other gym gear from a lot of the new racks they're coming out with. I've mentioned their flat bench is probably my best flat bench for home gym use and even in some cases commercial gym use. They have a lot of new barbells that are coming out that look really nice. So if you're going to be building a complete gym package, I would probably either go through Rogue or Rep Fitness in that case, in which case you're probably going to be paying a lot for shipping already. So it's kind of mooted the point that you're adding bumpers on because shipping shouldn't increase that drastically. So if you're going to be buying bumpers from the regular style, I would suggest Rogue Echo. If you're going to go for the training or competition, Titan Fitness or Fringe Sport. But in the long run, again, I would not suggest bumpers anyways, because most of you don't lift in that style, but if you do, I would very highly suggest you just get the 160 or 230 pound set, which is going to save you a little bit money because you're not buying 800 pounds worth. A lot of those kind of pre-configured sets also come with free shipping, so that's something to look into, but definitely look into that. Look into the width, the price, the durometer, and the tolerance of how accurate they are, and maybe last but not least, the aesthetics, because there are some cool looking plates out there. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Hopefully that steers you away from bumpers, but if you're dead set on it, then you're dead set on it, and hopefully that helps you as well. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.